In 1860, Cincinnati was called Porkopolis. The name was not a compliment. It described what the city had become, the pork capital of America, built on blood and efficiency. In 1818, a man named Elisha Mills opened a slaughterhouse in Cincinnati. He packed pork in barrels filled with brine. He shipped them down the Ohio River. The location was perfect. Cincinnati sat on the Ohio River. Farmers from across the region could float livestock downstream or drive them overland. By 1833, the city processed 85,000 hogs annually. Workers hauled carcasses into warehouses near the river. They cut the meat by hand, packed it in salt. The work was slow. A skilled butcher could process maybe a dozen hogs per day. By 1840, Cincinnati had 48 packing houses. They employed 1,200 men. The industry brought money, $3 million annually. But it also brought something else. Pigs, thousands of them, walking through the city streets. By the 1850s, Cincinnati had a problem. Not people, pigs. Farmers drove herds through residential streets. The animals ate garbage from gutters. They trampled yards. They blocked sidewalks. An English visitor named Nicholas Woods walked through Cincinnati in 1860. He wrote this: "They come against you wherever you turn, huge, black, muddy monsters, little sucklings underfoot. You inadvertently tread on them amid shrill squeakings." Another visitor, Isabella Bird, described coming out of elegant stores only to stumble over disgusting intruders in the street. The pigs were everywhere, because 450,000 of them arrived each year. A local banker had started calling the city Porkopolis in 1825. By 1860, the nickname had spread across America. The city was proud of it, mostly, but visitors found it revolting. By 1860, Cincinnati employed 2,400 workers in meatpacking. The slaughterhouses were built vertically. Some stood 4 stories high. Pigs were driven up ramps to the top floor. A worker struck each pig with a sledgehammer or cut its jugular with a knife. The carcass was hung on a hook. In 1850, someone had invented the horizontal wheel, a system of rails and pulleys that moved overhead. The wheel changed everything. Now the carcasses could move. From station to station, each worker performed one task, only one. One man cut legs, another scraped hides, another removed organs, another chopped ribs. Teams of 4 could dismantle an entire hog in under a minute. The cuts slid down chutes to different rooms below, for smoking, for salting, for packing into barrels. Nothing was wasted. Lard became candles and oil. Bones became glue. Bristles became brushes. This was called the disassembly line. Cincinnati had invented mass production by taking things apart. The work was brutal. Men stood in the same spot for 12 hours, repeating the same motion thousands of times. Blood covered the floors. It ran in streams. German immigrants did most of the work. By the 1850s, 40% of Cincinnati's population was German. They had come looking for jobs. They found them in the slaughterhouses. One German worker later described his first day. The smell hit him before he entered the building. Inside, the noise was constant. Squealing, hammering, men shouting. He worked the cutting floor. His job was to remove front legs, only front legs, for 12 hours. By the end of the shift, his hands were numb. His clothes were soaked with blood. The waste went into Deer Creek. The creek flowed through the packing district. It turned red. Locals called it Bloody Run. By 1860, Cincinnati dominated the industry. The city processed more pork than anywhere else on earth. The product went everywhere. Down the Ohio to the Mississippi, to New Orleans to southern plantations, across the Atlantic to Europe. A merchant in New Orleans could order 500 barrels. They would arrive within weeks. All identical, all preserved the same way. Pork exports represented 10% of all American exports. One Cincinnati packer employed 300 men in his facility alone. He processed 50,000 hogs each winter. He became wealthy, built a mansion on the hill, 6 miles from the stockyards. From his house, he could not smell the blood. Inspired, so the place of erming then become present and low, where each scientific serious creations of what gain a beast of the mad way. So what are you doing? To the hormar you could call up, you'd seem like histamino. Should an awful that day, that the fastest blow wall or something on rotting, I'll say, got to do it. What's it touchable?
In my Valides project, just to follow from act, if we'd be joined, because I take kind. Tip away charts elapsed of confessed from don't someone is never written the perspective of a step to learn all they know what. The regions of target to call low penny boat is a small wheel balloon. It might be pulled off by the picture. And building cliff of lead. The little default at the smire between what a down and books of pagination book. Well, there are screams about woundology. The arnies of Colin Conslusums and claim Ga or Smebwise Kwawan sep massive these convenience and fribly collected faith. And the honor of becomes hard in the biblet in a one burrow. What about the clo called as a snatches require? The gleefully dollars that if I know the fault of the goddess the night, but God, this is why in June comes to help the day. The pigs were gone from the streets. In 1906, a man named William Klann visited Chicago. He worked for a new company, Ford Motor Company. He toured a meatpacking plant, watched carcasses move past workers on overhead rails. Each worker performed one task. He had an idea. 3 years later, Henry Ford built the first automotive assembly line. Ford credited the meatpackers with the concept. The Disassembly line became the assembly line. The Model T changed the world. The principle came from Porkopolis. 2 companies founded in Cincinnati survived. Proctor & Gamble started in 1837. William Proctor made candles. James Gamble made soap. Both used pig lard. Both became wealthy. The company became global. It still exists today. The slaughterhouses did not. The last stockyard in Cincinnati closed in 1980. Sometimes, load ahead him. This small town might be amazed us, and in Cincinnati, killing by